had me at cello, cello. You had me at cello. You had me at cello. Oh, you had me at cello. Hi, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday. Time for another episode of Cello Chat. With me today is Alyson Berger, and I'm very as no further apart than we are, Alyson. And I would, just some times that your names come up and some connections that we have. But we've never met in person. But I'm
Yeah.
I'm anxious to talk to you about a number of aspects of your career and your approach, and so I'm very excited about this. But how are you doing on this beautiful day?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing quite well myself. It's been a great but busy summer so far, but I always really look forward to each of these interviews. So the first question always is, okay, why cello? How'd you get started on the cello? And then from there, what made you decide to go into music? And then where was your education? How'd you get to where you are now?
Let's see. I started back, I grew up on Long Island, and in elementary school, we could choose an instrument, a string instrument starting in third grade, or you could wait and start a band instrument fourth grade. So I was really anxious to get started. So I wanted a string instrument. My sister had already took viola, so I wanted something different. And so of course, I wanted something bigger because I was a very small person, still kind of small, but so I chose cello. I really like it. I know that the person that was teaching it, that was her main instrument. So, and it just stuck with it. I really liked it. Stuck with it, you know, for 47 years.
Yeah.
Um, then I just wanted to play because it felt good right away, and it was something I really identified with. My dog is here. I'm sorry. Yeah, so after high school, I went to Ithaca College, upstate New York, and I double majored in performance and education. So I feel very strongly about both. Like if you're a teacher, you should be a performer as well. So I wanted to go that route. So I did that. And that was a 4.5 year degree. It was really kind of intense because it's double major. And then I decided I wanted to get out of New York and see what life was like somewhere else. So I got a really great opportunity to go to Wichita State, which is very different from New York. It was nice to get what life was like somewhere else. So out there, I played with the symphony, and I played in a quartet, and I got a lot of practice in, and had some really great teachers out there. And then decided to go to Chicago. So I came up to Chicago, did a little bit of playing at DePaul and with the Civic Orchestra a little bit. And then I just stayed in Chicago. I really like it there. It's a cool town. Um, what else can I tell you? Oh, and then I did go back briefly to New York for a little bit to teach where I grew up in the schools that I grew up in. So I thought that was important to do since it gave me my start in music to go back and give back where I grew up. And I taught in the same school that I went to. So it was nice experience. And I came back to Chicago to raise my daughter, and I also teach here. And there's a lot more performance opportunities, especially in new music. It's got a great new music community in Chicago, which I've always been drawn to composition and alternative styles of playing. Um, yeah, so I settled in Chicago, and I've been here for, I don't know, 27 years, something
All
like
right.
that.
And you play in a lot of ensembles. Can you list some, an orchestra or two and a lot of contemporary music ensembles? Yes.
Back in 2006, I met a composer who was looking for a cellist to play for his graduate recital. And the cellist at his school, he couldn't find anybody who was willing to put in the time to practice his music because it was on the difficult side. And at that time, I was looking for more opportunities to play. So I was willing to do it. And then through that, we become friends, and he started an organization called ACM, Access Contemporary Music, which has really grown over the past 19 years or so, into a really big organization with performing um, opportunities, performances, and a school that focuses on composition and performance, which I really like. But for me, that was my gateway into meeting composers and working with other instrumentalists um, that were into performing contemporary music. And it led me to meet my collaborator, Amy Wirtz. So she is my pianist, and we have a duo, the Wirtzberger duo. That's where most of my performance energy goes these days. So she's a composer and a pianist, and we've recorded two CDs or we've made two recordings in the past 4 years. I think that last summer we was our latest one. I have it here, like little shameless plug here.
No, and
Uh,
I hope you'll talk about it some.
okay. Do you want me to talk about it now
Yeah,
or
sure.
okay. So this our latest CD that we worked on last summer, and I'm calling it a CD because we have all these CDs. It's also on Bandcamp and all the other online platforms. But we applied for a grant from the city of Chicago, and we were fully funded. So it was very exciting. And we were working with a composer, Alex Shapiro. She had asked us to record one of her pieces. It's called Of Wooden Touch. It's a really great piece. So she wanted us to record it, and then we had worked with SCI, the Society of Composers International. Do you know them? We put out Amy's a member, so she put out a call for scores, and does anybody have any cello, piano music that they want us to read? And so we got lots, like hundreds of things, of pieces from composers. But we found a few on there. One was from Tina Davidson. It's called Hum. It's a really, really cool piece. It's a single movement work. It's like really flowing and energetic and high, and it's a beautiful piece. And then another one, this composer you might know because she's in Wisconsin, I believe, Laura Elise Schwendinger. Do you know her?
The name, yeah.
Yeah, her piece is on here too. It's called Rapture. That's also a very cool piece. And then of course, Amy's piece. Amy writes beautiful music. It's very lyrical and very tonal, and very intense music. She writes, her piece is called Chambers. But that's what we recorded last year, and it was a lot of work and a lot of fun. And I'm really proud of it.
Tremendous, tremendous. So I want to talk to you about the contemporary music. Would you say that playing a lot of contemporary music makes you think a little bit differently about playing on the cello? You know, I mean, sometimes for younger folks who may be watching this, it seems like here's notes on a page. I go to that spot on the instrument, I play that note. You know what I mean? If there's dynamics or articulations, I do those as well. But sometimes with the contemporary music, it's as though you have to try and read the score and picture, okay, what is the composer trying to get out of me? What is the sound, and how do I best kind of try to create that? In other words, sometimes you as the performer also may find yourself suggesting to the composer, now, are you wanting something more like this? You know what I mean? Where you're trying to go, okay, I think what they're wanting is this sound, but I think I'd get it a little bit better by doing it this way. Do you know what I mean? Is it more you think a little bit more outside, just big picture, in trying to figure out how to get what the composer seems to be wanting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I like about it, about playing this contemporary music is you can you can work directly with the composer and ask them these things, ask them what they want. And sometimes they're very hands off, and the composers like want the performers to interpret it their way, like it's out there in the world. You interpret it your way, because I can't, answer every question for everybody who wants to play my piece. But sometimes they're really hands-on, and it's like, no, you want to make this, and make this sound, make this sound. It's like, okay, I'll do it. So it depends and on the composer you're working with. Also, what I like about playing these contemporary pieces is that there's no reference recordings a lot of times. So you're in charge of the interpretation yourself. And like we spend a lot of time in rehearsal, Amy and I talking about what do you think this is, or how do you think this sounds? Like we were playing something the other day and I said, oh, this should sound more magical. And she's like, oh, magical. I like that. I'm gonna start putting that description into my music.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what else? How else can I answer your question?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
if I may also, just thinking about some of the people I know who watch this series, when you don't have a reference recording, it's more on you than to have the ear training and the rhythmic foundation. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of people to this day whose ability to read music is not as good as their ability to play by ear. And they're just basically playing the sounds that they hear on the recording. But when you have to look at the score and go, now wait a second, how does that rhythm work in this meter? You know, it's
yeah.
really requires you to keep those chops up really high, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have to do a lot of careful practice or in focused practice. Like I divide the pieces up sometimes and like sit and like do the math if it's a really complicated rhythm. And just you have to be a really good practicer, really efficient at practicing, because sometimes it's like a deadline. Like you got this piece and you have to perform this piece, in a month. And you have to really be focused and have a plan of attack how you're going to learn it, you know.
Which again
Um,
is different for every piece, right?
mhm. Yeah. And what I like about the contemporary music too is that I've really had to learn my fingerboard, the upper ranges of the fingerboard on all strings. Like there's a piece I'm playing now that it's going from the C string to the A string, way up way up here over across. It's like, oh, that okay. Now I know where, the D is. I feel more comfortable getting this D on the C string than I have before. You just find it out of the blue. But that's also, yeah, really hard to do. But I feel I've gotten to learn my fingerboard a lot better than I would have if I had maybe just stayed with the strictly classical music.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think there's so maybe we can use this as a way to segue also into your teaching. Do you find that some of these sorts of lessons about practicing, just even to serve for survival, to get the piece from where it is at the beginning to where it needs to be in your performance in a month from now, that these inform some of the ways that you teach your students, breaking things down into bits, problem solving, a willingness to explore other possibilities. Oh, I've always done this, found this note or articulation this way, but for this piece, I have to experiment and think even more outside the box, or those sorts of things.
Hmm. Yeah, so where I teach in the public schools in Evanston, and so I teach orchestra kids. So I teach all the string instruments, and yeah, but practicing is very it's the hardest part about the job is to teach practicing.
Yes, it
So
is.
we talk about it a lot, and I organize their practicing for them. I give them like a 5 minutes do this, 10 minutes do this, like a suggested way of practicing. And it is very broken down, and they're lucky they have reference recordings though to use for their pieces. But yeah, I try to instill in them the kind of practicing that I do on my own too.
But now, do you also have private students, for example, in the summer festival?
No, I haven't been teaching privately lately. I have, yeah, I've had a lot of private students. Usually I teach like high school age kids. That's who I really like to teach the private lessons to. So they're more self-motivated and I like that to know their goals with the instrument. I ask that to all my kids too. What's your goal? Why are you studying this instrument? What do you want to do? And then I frame their course of study around that. Um, but yeah, I'd love to teach the high school kids. I've had a couple that have gone on. They've all gone on to college and um continue to play in their adult lives, which is great. That's
Yeah,
what it's.
yes it is.
Mhm.
Yes it is. Now let's see. So, of the teachers that you've had, I definitely like Diane Chaplin. I know she was a guest on this program as well. But
Yeah, absolutely.
let's see, Mildred Johnson, Einar Holm,
Oh,
Mark Evans, William Cernoda. What
yeah.
I mean, sometimes we have our teachers just live daily rent free in our head. The sayings and their approach to teaching and to playing. Are there particular things that you got from various of these teachers that you draw upon on a regular basis when you teach or when you play?
Yeah, of course. Mildred Johnson, she was my teacher in high school,
Ah,
and she was, this must have been like 1986, and she must have been at least 80s, in her 80s then. So from way back, she actually was in at Juilliard with Leonard Rose. They were in the same class. They
wow.
were they would carpool together. Yeah, so she studied with Felix Salmon at Juilliard. Yeah, she was a really inspiring teacher. She would give me lessons just for like 2 hours. We would just sit there and play. They're just really nice. We'd always play duets together, and she was a really good cellist that was out on Long Island. But yeah, I always use the inspirations from my teachers, and Bill Cernoto was a really good teacher as well. He's in Chicago. He was so organized, very organized. I don't like about what you should learn here, what you should learn now. And I loved his organizational skills. I think he's also a scientist, so I think that helps with that's the way he thinks. He organizes things. Um, what else? Who else has inspired me? Actually, Mark Evans. Do you know Mark Evans? I think he's in the National Symphony now. When
Okay.
I studied with him, like we're the same age. So that was kind of funny. I was getting my master's and he had just come from Yale. I think he was in Yale, and he got hired to teach for the year out in Kansas. And we were the same age. I thought I would study with somebody my same age. That's weird. But he was a great teacher. And it's just a natural, um, he was able to communicate, techniques or do it like this, and then things would be fixed. He was really inspiring, and a great player. He had such great tone.
Hmm.
Sure he still does. But he was a great teacher.
Nice. All right. So, the question on motivation is one I ask everybody. You mentioned, the biggest challenge with the school orchestras, getting them to practice. Uh,
Mhm.
and of course, every student is different, but just in a way, we all as teachers kind of evolve what we feel are the most effective ways to communicate this or that or the other to students. And I'm wondering, what are some of your favorite ways to help motivate students to get their instruments out and to do the work that it takes to get where they want to go with the instrument?
Mhm. I like to create more performance opportunities for them, not to put the pressure of performing, but more of like fun experiences of performing so that they get the feeling of being part of something that's part of the group, or that their contribution is important, but not to have like a high pressure performance situation. So in the past couple of years with my students, I've created these opportunities for them. Like last year, we played a concert. They called it a side-by-side concert that I helped organize with the local it's a community orchestra, but it's also semi-professional in Evanston, the Evanston Symphony. So we did a side-by-side concert with them, and that was so fun. It was we had a couple hundred kids there, all string players. We played a couple pieces, and it was the big audience, and it was an all-day thing. And they got their favorite part was probably getting the snacks, but they also they played really well, and it was fun. It was a great thing. And then the year before that, I organized a concert with a composer. So we had a composer write a piece for us, and that wasn't just string players, it was for string and band kids together. So that was all just the middle schoolers playing that one, and they sounded great. So it was a piece for full orchestra and bigger band. So it was like a full orchestra, but more band instruments. And then they performed that in Evanston as well. It was really fun. That was like hundreds of kids too. I love creating performance opportunities for them like that. And they got to work with the composer and have a Zoom like we're having. I got to ask him questions and like what was the piece about, and um it was really great.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes just single events like that can fuel students' enthusiasm for weeks, if not months. You know, it's like a summer festival or just a visit by, you know, like what you say, a living composer or a great performer or chance to perform repertoire that really sets them on fire. Can really have a lot of momentum, especially if then on the horizon is the next such event, and
Mm-hmm.
that's great.
Yeah, and I like to have them be part of the planning process too. So they help pick out, I give them suggestions of what we can do. So I have them help pick out the music and what we should wear or how we should present it at the concert. So that part's fun too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You know, it can take some planning, but the pays off so much in the end. That's terrific. So I also want to ask you, your duo primarily, it seems, has found a number of performing opportunities. I don't know, maybe some of this is due to the new music scene in Chicago, but it's neat, for example, to find various YouTube videos online of you playing, and rather than them all being like in a concert hall or in a church or something like that, a number of them are in a tent or
Oh, yeah.
in a venue in which you more often would expect to find some bluegrass ensemble or something like that. So, how have you found some kind of outside the box venues and performance opportunities?
I think Chicago just naturally has a lot of places like that. There's some really great performance spaces and they're not necessarily bars, but there's this one called Constellation that's really great in Chicago where you can get a drink, and there's like a nice little two different performance areas, and it's casual and people can have a drink while you're listening. I think that's really great. But the street festival one, that's an ACM production, and they've been doing it's called Thirsty Ears, and they've been doing it for I think this is going to be the ninth year. And it's we call it the Chicago's only classical music street festival. So um it's really fun. And we do the you were referencing it before, the Sound of Silence film.
Mhm.
Sound of Silent film, it's where we play newly composed music to modern silent films. It's really cool. We've been doing that for like ooh, 16 years, 16 or 17 years. But we do that on the street. We put a big screen up and we play in front of it. People really love that. We also do that one at the Music Box Theater, which is a movie theater, and that's a great venue for that too, because it has a big it used to be a silent movie theater because it has the organ still there, and it's old timey kind of a theater, and it also has a bar attached to it too. So after we go, everybody goes and hangs out after and a little party. But yeah. So and we before that we had another performance series in a. We did that for years in another movie theater, it's the Davis Theater in Chicago, where we would perform in the movie theater. So everybody was sitting in like the stadium, the really comfy chairs. And of course, they also had a bar. You can bring in your popcorn and then watch. And we'd have some sort of uh, graphic up on the screen while we were performing. And that was a great place for concerts too. Where else have I performed?
Wasn't there a series that had taxi in the title?
Oh, the Ear Taxi Festival, yeah.
Okay.
That's happening again. So that the
Okay.
Ear Taxi Festival, that was started, when was that? 2016
Okay.
by New Music Chicago and Augusta Reed Thomas. Um, and that was many different venues
Hmm.
around Chicago. I think I played at the Cultural Center for that one. Yeah, the Chicago Cultural Center, which is a great place to perform too.
Hmm.
But that was it had different venues all over town, that first presentation of the Ear Taxi. And then it happened again in 2021. And for that one, I played that was all over town as well. And that one I played at Constellation, but we didn't play until like 9:45 at night. I thought that was a little late. It was 9:45 on a Sunday for our part of our show, but there were people there. And it went well. That was a great one because we played with my friend of mine. She's a dancer, so she was dancing, and it's there's a lot of dancing that happens at Constellation. So it was me and Amy and dancer. I really love that performance, and it's happening again in 2025. So hopefully I'll play in that one too. I think so because my colleague Amy is one of the curators of it. So I think she can put a plug for us to to play there as well.
Good.
And then there's another festival that Amy and I started. It's called the Impromptu Fest.
Hmm.
So that one, we call it Impromptu Fest because Amy was scheduled to play at this theater. She was going to accompany a theater group, and then for some reason the show got canceled, but the theater was still rented out. So the director said, "If you want to have this theater for the week, go for it." So
Impromptu.
yeah,
Good.
so and it's a Chopin theater, so it worked on two levels. But that one's still going too. We did that last year. We did that at several spaces in Chicago last year. We did at this Epiphany Center for the Arts,
Okay.
which is an old church that they've converted into a bunch of performance spaces. That's a great place. And then we also did it at a place called Elastic Arts, which is I guess an upstairs. It's not really a theater, it's just a room where everybody can get together. It's got a really great sound system. Um, we did it there, and then another place on the south side. I can't remember which place that was. That was like an artist collective. It's like a building on the south side of Chicago where just a like an arts collective, like
All
there's
right.
visual artists here, sound artists here, a bunch of studios. Um, but that was a great place too.
I think that I don't know. It seems like every year or two, at least, people ask the question: Is art music dying? Is it on its way out or something? I always think the answer to that is no. But if it has to morph some, that's nothing new really throughout history. Like Robert Schumann trying to invent things at the time that strike us as, so a couple hundred years ago. But here, you're not the first person to have been on the program to talk about these ways of, in some cases, it's thinking outside the box about performances. In some cases, it's collaborating with whether it's a dancer or an artist or a visual artist, something like that. And in a number of cases, it's ways of bringing the music to the audiences either in a different place or a different way. If it helps for them to have a libation at the same time, it's like, well, they're still experiencing high quality live art music. Breaking that fourth wall, those sorts of things, to get new people who just experience it and decide, oh yeah, this has got to be a part of my life from now on.
Mm-hmm.
So good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I love getting that reaction from the audience too. It's like, oh, I didn't realize I could like contemporary music. You know,
Yeah,
I love getting that.
well,
Yeah.
excellent. All right. So, what's coming up? I mean, you've mentioned a number of the things, even into 2025. But are there performances in the immediate future in 2024, or other projects you're lining up? Additional CDs in the future?
No CD projects in the future right now, but we do have a performance at that Thirsty Ears Festival is coming up. That's on September 8th. So it's the weekend of the 7th and the 8th, and it's in the Ravenswood neighborhood in Chicago. It's on Wilson. If you know Chicago, it's on Wilson Avenue, just east of Ravenswood. But it goes for 2 days of music, local acts. So it's a mix of contemporary and classical. So we're playing we're focusing it around this one piece. I don't know if you know this piece, but it's a sonata by Henriette Bosmans.
No, I don't.
Oh, she's what year was she, about 1850s?
Okay.
Um Henriette Bosmans, and it's a really cool piece. I think people don't play it because it's really kind of hard,
Mm.
but it's like such a cool piece. You should look it up.
All right.
But we're revolving it around that. That's the big anchor piece. But then I'm going to play a solo piece, and Amy's going to play a solo piece, and then we have a friend of ours wrote a piece for us. Trevor Patricia Watson, he wrote a piece for us, and then we'll also play another contemporary piece. Oh, who wrote that one? Oh, I can't remember.
Mm.
Um, Oh, Victoria Malway. Yeah, that's what we're playing. A piece by her. It's called Being.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's what we're playing next. And then we'll have a series of recitals. We've been asked to play in a library, so we're gonna go play in an actual I think it's like they have a concert hall there too. So we're gonna play at a concert hall. Um,
That's great.
yeah,
Well,
and then
go ahead.
just various orchestras I'll be playing with um for the season, and back to school next week. So
Yeah. I
busy.
hope your I hope your students get to come to some of these performances on a regular basis. I'm sure that too is super inspiring for them.
Yeah, yeah, they do come. Sometimes it's late night on a weeknight, so
Yeah, right.
they don't come. But but I try to have family friendly performances as well for
Yeah,
them.
outstanding. Well, best of luck with the rest of the season, and thanks for your time. It's been
Thank you.
really fun visiting with you, Alyson. One of these days our paths will cross in
Yeah,
person.
I hope so. Yeah.
All right,
All
and
right. Good luck.
everybody out there all week, happy practicing, and we'll see you this time next Friday. Take care.
You had me at Jello.